Alright, check, check, 1, 2, 3. Alright, check, check, 1, 2, 3. Alright, I'm just wrapping up some link sharing and promotion here. Just about ready to party. Alright, I think that's taken care of. Let's lower the screen. Oh, and I should probably reset the burp counter. First things first. Hope everyone's having a solid Saturday. We got our 4 kit bashes here. There's more kit bashes in the batch that were washed gotten up to the washed stage last stream. The plan for today is to definitely get all these up to the washed stage, which all I need to do for that is just get some silver on it, and then they'll be ready. And then I think we'll probably work on red cloth. Now probably most of the stream. Maybe we'll work on some white as well. And so we're painting silver. We'll use the dry palette. We're using up the last dregs of this old game color gunmetal. It served me well over the years. Let's see how much I have to fight to actually get some out of the bottle. I stored this upside down. There's a tiny bit coming out. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's enough for now. I just gotta make sure this stays upside down. Maybe mix in a little water into the bottle if I really want to get the most out of it. Welcome, Artie Chara. Thanks for making it. Alright, we need a fairly precise brush, but not the crispiest brush we have on hand right now. Yeah, I do that with shampoo as well. You gotta get the most of that bottle. Hello, Jotaro Kujo 3782. Alright. I didn't really want to just be doing like more silver base coating on stream and washing, because I'd done both of those recently, but there's only 4 of these to do. Or I've only set aside 4 for this stream, so we should be able to get through each stage decently quick and have a solid variety of steps for the stream. And stick around stream long enough, maybe you'll hear me blabber on about some future Gunpla project. And this Kipash is a Steel Legion body with mounted squire head and sword arm, and I believe this is a mounted noble lord shield with on a men-at-arms arm, and then a household guard shoulder pad. So how'd that for a Kipash? I kind of have mixed feelings on what I do on this side of the shield. And also it looks like I need to reinforce the white a bit. It might look fine shaded like that actually. And I think I want to leave the outside of the shield gold still. And it's gonna mess up our dry brushing a bit. But let's just kind of start tidying up the base coat with the silver here. Alright. How many kits have I painted this month? It depends on what you count as a kit. I haven't been doing much painting this year, post the Neon Barbatos. Although I guess I finished that last year. I've done a lot of building this year, and kit bashing of miniatures. But then I kind of came out of the painting funk whenever I started live streaming, maybe was that like a month ago now? I painted the Halo Flashpoint terrain expansion and 2 teams of Spartans. So if you count those as a kit, I've painted 3 kits. And I'm working on a batch of 100 Kingdoms infantry, which was selected based on like what I already have painted and how army list building works. So I don't know how that fits into the neat box of a kit. Yeah, and if you're asking if I've painted like scale model kits, like gun plus stuff, the last thing I painted was the Neon Barbatos. But I got plans for one I want to paint in time for the Odafest Gunpla contest next year in May. Have you painted any kits this year? Or ever? I don't usually bring out this detail when it comes to the men-at-arms shoulder pads infantry, but this one's a special veteran, so it's gonna get some extra trim. Let's bring out just a few more details of the armor. Maybe just like one stripe along the waist here. I like bringing out this little diamond. Alright, now I just want to do like sections of the trim around the waist, and that's it. We'll make them slightly fancier than a regular Steel Legion body. He is a fancy kit bash after all. And if I spill over the line a little bit, should be handled by the wash. The helmet doesn't quite match up the ornateness of the armor in this case, but it's fine. It's a kit bash, there are no rules anymore. Okay, is that all the silver done on this one? I think so. Let's move on to this musician. I don't remember if I came up with a silly name for him yet. I came up with silly names for the Flashpoint Spartans, but the only silly name we got is for Lord Short King here. And this Kipesh, I suppose, is a Steel Legion leader model. Yeah, the cowboy hat gives him the leader status, and of course the unicorn trumpet. Big excitement at work this past week because the new Vallejo True Metallic Metal Series paints came out. They've been flying off the shelves. Some of them look really nice. If they solve the issue is if you wanted like certain colored metallics before, oftentimes you'd like just mix some of the metallics you already have with the colors you already have. But then the problem with that is you ended up with some desaturated. Like that they did get colored, but they're also desaturated. But these new true metallic metals from Vallejo are very saturated and vibrant. And each paint in the series has 4 versions. There's the airbrush pre-thinned version, the base, which is just like the main touchstone for that color, the light, which is like a highlight, the designated highlight for the base, and a designated shade for the base as well. And of course this is mostly Steel Legion parts. It's just like a Hunter Cadre / Longbowman head, and then we sliced off the hand and replaced it with this Warhammer Fantasy Unicorn Trumpet, which I believe is a High Elf bit. I do paint the spikes on the other Steel Legion silver, but I kind of want to leave them gold on this guy just to be different. Because I think there's going to be enough silver anyways. And we are going to do the same waist trim that we did on the sword and board kit bash. The very fancy sword and board. I mean, the sword wasn't that ornate, but the shield definitely was. AKA the board. I think I'll paint the like symbol, or the thing that's attaching the feather to his hat. I think it's a skull, perhaps. I'm gonna paint that silver. It's like a piece you would more naturally gut instinct paint gold, but I think there's enough gold on this mini already. We could stand to balance that out a bit. Okay, maybe it's not a skull, but it's like a head or something. It's kind of hard to tell. It's a pretty tiny piece. Okay, and we're gonna paint the mane of the unicorn silver. Kind of feel obligated to paint those like bands on the neck silver as well. Could paint the horn a fancy color if I wanted to. I'm not sure. I don't want to introduce like another color to the mix here because we already got like a few. Like the regular infantry grunts in the army, they got like their metallics and then white, and then their unit category color or unit class color. Suppose we could do gemstone eyes. But yeah, these guys they have multiple class colors. It's like introducing another new color for the gems would be pretty small and subtle and fairly easy to pull off. But the horn, that's another question. Yeah, will have to clean up some bits of the gold around the ears there, so I'm gonna try and paint these trim here. I mean, I'm trying and I'm doing it. It's just a question of how much cleanup there'll be after. Do a silver mouthpiece to help distinguish it a bit. It looks like I drilled a little hole even for it. I assume I did that on purpose. Hello, Ludzig and another Nate. You clicked on it by accident. Well, hopefully it was a happy accident. Alright, just gotta do the other side of the sword that's closer to the face and a bit trickier. Alright, we missed a little bit of the trim on the shoulder pad there. Try and get in the armpit for that chainmail a little bit. It's not really that important though, it's barely visible. Alright, I think the silver on this one's done. Go on to the fancy hat halberd. I think I'm gonna be with the helmet. So I'll do the faceplate silver. And then we'll leave the wreath as gold. Or I could just do the whole head silver and then leave the faceplate gold. That'll help the wreath stand out some more. Let's try that. Just to be a bit different. Because the way the wreath was dry brushed looks pretty solid. I think I can just... If I just trying to leave that untouched would be ideal. We will apply the wash to it though, of course. Yeah, this might work out fine. Of course, we'll have to do a fairly carefully applied wash. Alright, yeah, I like how that turned out. Perhaps it'll get out of focus less if I raise the camera a bit. Well, we need a paint refill soon, looks like it. And the shoulder pads, we're just doing the same as we've done for the other household guard. Same thing for the rest of the matching armor bits. We've got our blocking pattern down pretty solid now. Dab up the knuckles a bit. Okay, after this elbow pad, I think I gotta put some more paint on the palette. See you, Ledzig. Call me sister next time, or just sibling. Thanks for stopping by. I do have another silver that's almost empty that we're using up on this project. Oh, got a good squirt there, okay. We're still in business. For a second I thought this one was done. Just a little warm there, I had to take off a layer. Alright, back to this armor. Oh yeah, I was in the middle of doing that elbow, let's finish that. Alright, got the elbows done. Back to the torso details. Because of the way I painted the helmet slightly different on this one, I'm a bit tempted to just bring out a few more details of silver than I do on the standard household guard body. But it's going to be a pretty subtle difference in the end, I think. The main things that'll make it look different are obviously the color choices. Alright, let's do the knee pads. And now we'll probably have a bit too much silver on the palette. This sword, could it use a second coat? On this side it could. I feel like the halberd on the household guard kit badge will definitely need 2 coats. So let's just do that first coat now. But this sword, that looks fine. Yeah, with all these fancy new Vallejo True Metallics out on the market, my regular old metallics feels somewhat inadequate now. But I gotta I gotta get my money's worth out of them. I like the value, so I'm gonna keep using them. It's definitely, when a fancy new paint range comes out, and definitely starts giving you ideas for new projects you didn't have before. Or even tempting to go back and paint things. Yeah, so that's the first coat, and you can still see some of the gold underneath. Oh boy, that's a coffee burp. That's burp 1 of the stream. Update the counter. Quick. Back to business. Okay, just got to do the ice on the back of the cape a bit. And, oh, we do need to get the last foot detail and knee pad. Then we'll be on to the silver for the last one of these 4. Alright, we're hitting the half-an-hour mark. Alright, and the feet. Right, and then the back of the cape. I think I want to leave these bits at the bottom as gold. We'll give that a quick tidy up right before we wash. Alright, let's just use the stuff that's still on the brush. This one's got the fun little fork pike. Perhaps a trident, you could say. If it is a trident, though, it's a slightly different shaped trident. I mean, it's definitely some kind of pike, just because it's like one of the Gilded Legion bits, and they're kind of like a pike wall unit. I mean, not kind of like a pike wall unit, they are a pike wall unit. They even got the ability pike formation. Alright, and this is the other High Elf Warhammer Fantasy bit. The short sword with a fancy gem. I see this more as like a command sword, because this one will go on the command stand. And because, you know, fighting with like a pike and a sword is like not that. That's kind of inefficient when you think about it. But, you know, there's this. I did kibash a scabbard onto this lad's waist, so we got our explanation there. You can just store the sword and then use both hands for the pike. If it was a shorter pike, maybe you could fight like spear and sword style. It's been done before. Do we paint the elbow on this one? Yes. And also I like the back of the hand here. It's nice and ornate. So, you know, when you're getting backhanded by this guy, you can look at the back of the gauntlet and be like, wow, the craftsmanship. Yeah, there should be just enough silver left. And before I forget, let's give this halberd a second coating, especially on this large flat area here. Definitely needs it. Alright, now we'll do the waist like we did on the other Steel Legion torsos. Yeah, this one has a Steel Legion torso. Both of the arms from Household Guard. We got a Household Guard head. And the High Elf sword hand that's been spliced on. And we got this little metal tabard here, which I think we can give the trim a little love. And by that I mean silver paint. Yeah, Caleb Smith, I do use a wet palette. I'm using a metallic right now, so I'm not using a wet palette, but at some point in this stream I will get back to the wet palette. You can see this is the Army Painter one right here. I also have a wet palette from Frontier Wargaming that's a bit smaller. Yeah, the trim details on this shoulder are a little ill-defined on certain ridges. So hopefully the brushwork defines it as much as it needs to be there. I'm trying to remember how I painted the hat on the other helmets like this have done. But this is one of the kit bashed ones, so it doesn't need to be super consistent. That's some room temperature coffee. Hopefully there's a bit of coffee left when I go change the paint water when it once it's wet palette time. Trying to see if there's enough silver to be scraped out here to finish up this model. There might be. I might have to just scrape some off the nozzle of the bottle though, we'll see. Definitely gotta do this spiked collar in the silver. I can hear it speaking to me. Okay, we need to do the other shoulder. Okay, we do need to just grab a little bit to finish off the elbow, I'm afraid. I think I can just extract it directly from the nozzle. Alright, I think that's the silver done. Now there's just a few bits of gold to be touched up on, I think, all of them, and then we wash. Then after the wash, I'll take a break to change the paint water and get more coffee. We're going for the usual goal of having a 2-hour stream, of course. I didn't do the trim on the side of this shoulder pad. I can kind of get away with leaving it, but I don't want to. We only need a teeny bit of silver paint to pull this one off. Whoops, we just spilled a bunch onto the trim there of the cape. Fix it later. All right. As I was saying, just gonna touch up a few bits of the gold now. Only gonna use a little bit on the palette at a time. Alright, so we gotta do the entire border of the shield here, pretty much. I'm gonna try and like leave the edges untouched to act as a sort of highlight, because we applied some silver there and there's like the previous dry brush. Oh yeah, we do need to tidy up the wreath on this one. Yeah, this one with the ornate shield might have like the most in-depth gold cleanup of the batch, so I suppose it's fitting we do it first. Also, I've basically settled on calling it gold now, even though it's model color bronze. In the context of my 100 Kingdoms armor, I think it's safe to say it's gold. A burnished gold, perhaps, if you will. Alright, now we'll tidy up the wreath. Let's hope the paint's not too thin. We don't want it running into the purple in the recesses. That should be clean enough, and then the wash can do the rest of the work, as always. And I could have painted this wreath green, but I didn't want to introduce green onto the palette of this mini. I think I only allowed that for the Household Guard banner, just because there's so many different like elements on the front of it. Kind of called for it. That was a challenging banner to paint. Let me tell you, I think that, I can't remember if I did that one on stream or not. There might have been one I was like, just panic insomnia finishing last year. That was a while ago. Alright, I need gold to tidy up in other areas. Just a little bit. Yeah, but not much. I guess the inside trim of the shield we should give a little bit. Actually, it's not too bad. I think I can leave that. Alright, let's call that one ready to be washed. This one... Dang, are there even any areas that need to be cleaned up? I think just these bits on the bottom of the cape. And a little bit on the bling here. Might as well just give it an even coat. Alright, halfway there with the gold touch-ups. This guy doesn't really have much, just on the trumpet here. This can kind of also bring back some of the yellowness that was made more subtle via the dry brushing. Just a few elements of the sword here. I think that's it for this one. Alright, and this pike guy, could have sworn there was something. Could bring back the dry brushing on the helmet a bit. I also don't like the way I painted the brim. And by way I painted it, I mean the mistakes I made, so I want to clean those up. Done this a few times, just sticking the brush in there to get just one last hit. Yeah. Perhaps my work in this stage earlier was just a bit hasty. Yes, that's looking better. Or maybe the issue I had before is I was using paint that was thinned too much. Yeah, I think I might just call this one ready to be washed as well. Oh, although the buckles at the bottom there, I don't know if those are buckles. They're just the metal bits at the end of the kind of trailing ribbons around the guy's waist. Now I should probably tidy up the trim of the red on here, because it'd be nice if that was like solidly clean before putting the wash on. There might be enough dry red on the wet pad that I can just reactivate it. Let's see. Just gonna stretch first though. Oh yeah, I can definitely reactivate some of that red. I'm gonna switch to the slightly sharper brush. Gotta be pretty careful here. Or here when I'm painting, if I'm gonna like spill over across the line, it's better to do it onto the purple than onto the metallics. Yeah, for this spot you definitely want to paint the gray first, because you gotta be a bit haphazard with the brush to make sure you get full coverage in all those crevices, and it just it's easier to do that first than to paint the red trim and then do the gray. Alright, let's get on to some washing now, shall we? Back to the dry palette one more time for this stream. Don't want to use this brush though. Want to use a beaten up brush, but one that's not too big because I want to be somewhat precise with the application. Alright, time to work quickly. Trying to be like somewhat selective with the bits on the bag. We don't really need to get the black wash onto the red because the color that's on there is dark enough for the base. Or for the recesses, I should say. For the pants, it's a bit of a different story though. They're a bit more folded up. And of course, lots of detail to be washed and brought out on the breastplate. On every breastplate of this batch, basically. Especially when the details are so like shallow on certain areas of the pants. Having the wash there to like fill in the cracks that do exist is handy. Excuse me. And I definitely missed part of the pants earlier when I was painting the purple and red. That's alright. He's not supposed to have a golden ass. Alright, now that shoulder pad just absolutely is dying for a wash, as you can see. And this shoulder pad is also dying for a wash, but it does have the large-ish flat area that I gotta make sure it doesn't get too streaky with the wash. Making sure I mop it up before it starts to dry at all. Alright, just about done washing this guy. Hello 80, welcome. Yeah, it's been a hot minute since you've popped by a stream. And same thing with the helmet, we don't want things to pool too much. On this domed head. Alright, just gotta do the top bit of the weapon. Bit too much wash there. Should be fine if I just focus on spreading out the stuff that's on here. Alright, that one, the washing is complete. On to the next. Now this shield definitely needs plenty of wash. I can see some areas where the purple coverage is quite lacking actually. Maybe quite lacking is a bit over dramatic. Yeah, those dastardly time zones. That's what I try and do. If the goal is to have 2 streams a week minimum, I try for one to be evening and one to be daytime. Kinda just want to wipe off the stuff I got on the trim of the shield there. I'm not really liking how it's staining things. But we do need to like do the edges between. Okay, I think we'll have to leave that for now and just clean it up later. Breastplate on this guy is much more straightforward. Yes, it is a very gold color, so gold that it's called model color bronze. That's just been the joke we're running into the ground this stream. This whole series of streams. I feel like I slopped a little bit too much. Just a little bit too much onto the front there. And yes, this shoulder pad of the men-at-arms side is very big and flat. Gotta be extra vigilant for streaks and pools. And yeah, the red cloth on the household guard one I didn't wash too much, but the red cloth on this one is a lot more folded. So we are washing. Oh, I definitely forgot to tidy up the purple here. That's okay. There's some bits of the gray that spilled onto it. And it's pretty important to get the folds of the brown leather pants shaded because it uses the same brown base coat as the basing material. And we do want them to be a bit more distinct from each other. And these pants could have been painted different colors, but the more armored models have less spots for like brown leather looking things, whereas some of the other units in the army do. So I wanted to make sure there was at least some of that matching brown painted on the more armored guys as well. And we got another big domed shoulder pad here that we must be vigilant around. I think we need a bit more wash on the palette. I'm glad you think the color's nice, 80. Damn, yeah, we're a bit too streaky on that shoulder pad, but it's definitely too dry now. So we will just tidy that up with more bronze later, probably near the very end of finishing this model, not the stream. I don't think we'll be finishing any models this stream, but I feel like by the end of this stream I will have like shown off enough of like the more interesting bits of this bash that I might call episode 5 here the last one in this series. I know last stream I said I was going to do 2 more, but I don't want to get too redundant with the streams, and I feel like after the one today I'll have shown off enough. But we'll see how I'm feeling at the end. Probably putting a bit too much wash on the sword here. But a nice sharp blade like this could use a nice edge highlight at the very end anyways. Alright, just gotta do the helmet now. And the helmet is of course at risk of much pooling and streaks. Let's be careful not to put too much on. So that's a pretty big pool at the start here, but should be able to just push it around fast enough and evenly distribute. Alright. Hello, Hellcat. Are you making the Mr. Krabs reference because of the gold? Art thou feeling it now, Mr. Krabs? 80, you're asking what is my favorite Witch for Mercury kit? That's a good question. I've only built 2. But you know, I do appreciate the range. My favorite, I mean, looks-wise, I think. I mean, I would change the color scheme a bit, but I do like the look of the Gundam Calibarn a lot. The Delanza is pretty sweet as well. Yeah, lots of good designs in Witch for Mercury. I like the character designs a lot too. Some of the character designs were so good they made model kits of those too. Those are the figure rise ones, I believe they're called. You know, you can like build a Miorine and Suletta. Have some Yuri bait set up at your desk at work. Depending on the workplace, that could go south. If I was working in an office and someone had those on their desk, I would want to chat them up about anime immediately. Because I am also a weeb. Oh yeah, if they made a figure rise of Ghoul, that'd be good. It's been a few years now though. I don't know if that's happening. I think that ship may have sailed. I'm so sorry. It's the cute anime girls get model kits of themselves way more often because, you know, cute anime girls, they just got a chokehold on the market. A real travesty. Yeah, the back of the hand and the hilt can use a lot of wash, but the blade, we only want just a little bit of shading. Like that's a bit too much I would just put on. And of course, if there's bubbles that show up in the wash when you paint it, you want to get those cleaned up right away. Yeah, I don't know how much I need to put the black wash on like this cloth that's eventually gonna be white. Like a very light gray. But having a bit in there to define the border between the white and the red I think will be good. It'll just be when we're like finishing up those colors later. It's gonna be challenging to like not spill over the line. Just because there be some fairly thin lines there. Looks like the camera needs a little reset. I gotta be a bit more careful with the pooling on the legs here. Okay, that one's done being washed, just one left. I'm sorry, 80, I'm just trying to be realistic. When was the last Witch for Mercury kit figurized one that came out? Oh yeah, I can't even remember if they did any of the male characters. I think they literally only did like the girls. Because I think they did Choo Choo and the kind of like dark haired Bob girl with the blue streak whose name I can't remember. Mio and Suletta. I don't know if they did any more figurize. Yeah, the white cloth areas we definitely don't want to get too much, or like any wash on them if we can help it, because it doesn't need it. It doesn't need to get darkened down too much. The gray that it is now is like ideally what the darkest shaded areas are going to be. And this padded cloth armor here definitely like having the black wash settle into the recesses. And I think I will wash the hat as well, just to really get into the folds and help define the border on like the band that goes around it that holds the feather. And the kind of metallic, I don't know if a brooch is the right term, part that's attaching the feather to the hat will look nice with wash. And of course we must absolutely do the trumpet with the wash. Okay, oh, we don't want to streak there. Let's just give a little wipe. Okay, let's do the arm. I'll save the hat for last. Yeah, lots of recessed detail on the trumpet here, but also lots of areas where we could get undesirable streaks and stains. But as always, the streaks can be corrected later. Alright, hat time. Oh, we didn't do this shoulder pad. Hold up, we gotta get this shoulder pad. Okay, there's just barely enough left on the palette for the hat, I think. Especially if we make sure we spread it around evenly. Alright, that's all the washing done. You found your new favorite hobby shop recently, 80. I procured a bottle of Turbo Dork Forest Flux. Oh, nice. That's a good color. I've used that before. It comes out pretty thick, so you gotta use a bit of paint thinner. Acrylic paint thinner, although you probably have picked up one of their new formulas, so I can't speak to those. They like revamped their formula, changed their bottle design in the last year or so. Okay, I need to change the paint water, and I'm gonna try and top up the coffee. So I'll be back momentarily. Okay, I'm back now. Just had to use the washroom. Got our fresh paint water. Got our freshly microwaved coffee. Let us rehydrate this wet palette. And then we're gonna work on a mix of purple and reds for at least half an hour. Possibly a little bit longer. Yeah, we did re-moisten this a bit last night, so I only need a few squirts. Okay, do I want to do red or purple first? Well, I think I'm gonna narrow it down to just certain models for the rest. Oh, spilled a bit on the palette there. Let's mop that up. Overhydrated it just a smidge. I've recently reactivated some red. Let's do purple. I'm not gonna like aim to be like, okay, do all the red, then all the purple. We'll probably be just casually switching back and forth. So first things first, we're gonna reactivate this purple. Should be able to reactivate a decent amount of it. So I clipped my nail too short on this finger. So every time I like wash it or get like water in it or something, it just stings. Good times. All right. Time for some purple. So this is just, we're just grabbing the base color again. We're gonna go back over the area we washed, which has now been darkened down a bit by said wash. That's right, 80, it's purple time. Doing my best to keep the wash in like the recessed area where the red and purple stripe meet. And then for the kind of folds on the sleeve here, I can highlight them with the edge of the brush, and it's not too tricky to avoid the recessed areas. This spot's definitely easier to paint if there isn't a ton of paint on the brush, because otherwise it might spill too much into the recessed area that I want to preserve the shading in. So it's almost like a bit of a dry brush that I'm doing here in a way. Exactly, Sparkster. Purple and gold. So good. Even better if you can get red and white in there too. For this project anyways. Alright, that's all the purple on that one. Alright, purple on the other Steel Legion body Kibesh. Still just going off purely reactivated purple from last session. Oops, spilled a bit into the gray there. We'll fix that when we do the gray. Alright, now we got this kind of zigzaggy border. With some somewhat inconsistent edges. Bit of a first-gen model issue. Of course, our sword. Awaken, purple, it's not your time yet. Is that a reference to something 80? I got a little bit of frill on the sleeve here that got purpled. It's kind of hard to paint these raised edges properly though. Oh, spilled a little bit, I think. Okay, I think I should have gone with silver in that area. Looks like some chainmail under there. Anyways, so we'll fix that later. Maybe we'll paint the eyes of the unicorn horn go red, if anything. I don't think they'll get purple because we got the purple gem here anyways. Yeah, Conquest is a pretty cool game if you're into rank and flank. They have their skirmish version called First Blood, but it's kind of awaiting a new edition in January. And so I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot. I mean, it's nice if you have a game in your area that stocks it, but what's even nicer is if there's a group of people in the area that actively play it. Because otherwise you kind of got to rope people into it yourself. It's kind of tricky to get this tassel edge highlighted in the way I want. But I think that'll come more when I'm like onto the brighter highlights of this purple and not just like reapplying the base coat post-wash. Plenty of folds to bring out on this waist tabard here. I don't know if it counts as a tabard or not. I guess it's not a tabard, it's just kind of like a waistcloth or something. Now we start defining these striped pants. Okay, I think that's it for the purple on this one. And I think we're going to switch to red. Yeah, it's always an issue finding players for a non-Games Workshop game. And then the same can be said for TTRPGs that aren't D&D. I'm the person that had to rope people into it somewhat. I mean, I had help from others and just other factors in general, but it was a lot of just like me having to step up to be the organizer and just show up. And of course, I have multiple armies myself available for demos. Once this 100 Kingdoms batch and then a quick batch of longbows after is finished, I'll have like a real solid fully painted 100 Kingdoms list and Spires list. So it's like finally I'll be at a point where if someone wants a 2,000 point demo, I can give them a pretty solid one with 2 fully painted armies. Usually with demos though, it's like 1,000 points or 1,500 points is a bit more appropriate, depending on the player, of course. But you know, sometimes if they're a veteran wargamer getting into it, they might just be like, start me off right at the top. Alright, the top level of playing, or what the game's balanced for. Alright, let's reactivate some of this red now. This does look a bit thinner. I'm just going to add a little drop. Where's that terracotta at? There we are. Yeah, that's good enough for now. I'm gonna chug this coffee before it's lukewarm again. Yeah, there's still like 1 sip left. Alright. Now we're doing the same thing with the red that we just did with the purple. We're taking the base color and just reapplying it over to the areas that were darkened because of the wash, but we're taking care to avoid the recessed areas. And yeah, you can see there's lots of there's these big black splotches from the wash that dried there. But I didn't really focus on mopping them up because I knew I was just going to be painting on top of it like this anyways. It's like the kind of stuff you learn from painting like the same infantry body over and over again. You kind of know what to expect. And a lot of stuff like that is what makes the painting process speed up. In terms of when you're batch painting armies and whatnot. I don't really think I need to get into the sleeve there. It's barely showing. Maybe a bit over on this sleeve. But it's like it's pretty ridgy, so I'm kind of going for like a very light touch to really just hit the raised areas and not much else. But of course the cowboy hat, we gotta give that one some proper layering. Nothing like a nice red hat with a feather. Now each of the Steel Legion units can have a fancy kit-bashed lad with a big red hat and a feather. Though the other red hat feather kit-bashed one I painted before, it's like a much wider brimmed hat, so it adds significantly more aura, as the kids say. Or as the youth say is probably a better term to reflect it. I'm sure that, that meme's got a few more months still before it's replaced by something. It's like the Steve Buscemi meme of like, how do you do, fellow kids? That meme is old enough now that it's like it almost needs to be updated, which is ironic. Okay, that is good enough for that first layer. I'm not sure. I guess I'll do some of the red on this one. It's like the red. With this one, I should probably do like the white bit first. But we're doing red now, so I'm just going to apply a little. It might be fine to just do this now, and then when we need to clean it up later, we'll just be using like the brighter red highlight instead, or the color that's more of like a proper red and not like a burgundy terracotta like this. Yeah, the trim with like the ribbon trailing bits, it's like not super clean, but it's such a small detail that's not really going to be noticed. Like it'll read well enough. The intention of how I'm painting it will read, that is. Alright, now we got the one probably with the most red, which is the halberd one, because he's got a cape. And I do kind of I just want to reactivate a little bit of black on the palette and just mix it in with some of the red for like the most recessed areas of the cape, just because the cape is so broad. I do want it to just have some proper depth, if that makes sense. And this is basically going to be a glaze, so I'm adding a bit of extra water. So this is just for the most folded areas. Or most recessed areas, maybe I should say. And the area like between the purple and red would be good for this glaze as well. And around the little metallic bits at the bottom of the cape. Gosh, painting capes is just so enjoyable. Yes, in this one we got the whole ass cheek that we didn't paint the cloth like we should have. So now's the time to take care of that. Okay. So for the highlights, we got this Naphthol red light, golden high flow acrylic. It's very runny, it's very strong. So the only time we want to be using pure this, and I don't even know if we'll get up to pure this, is like the final highlights. Because mixing it with the terracotta gives us a pretty bright red already. As tempting as this is to start mixing, we're going to add the drop, or a little squirt of terracotta first. Now it's time for us somewhat vigorous mixing. Let's add just a bit of water to start. And there's some of that lingering black. So I don't know, I might compensate with just a little bit more of the Naphthol red. Just a teeny tiny bit. Yeah, that's more like it. Alright, now as to whether I think around the edge of the back of the cape I might give it like a bit of a highlight, but the stuff underneath we're just gonna like leave that as the dark terracotta. And yeah, just around the edge of here we could just do it like one little cheeky highlight. I don't know why I said cheeky. Maybe it's just fun to call things cheeky sometimes. Just gonna try and feather the edge of that a bit. Yeah, thinking probably we got this round of highlights and then one more round after should be good enough. I think. We'll see. Saving the cape for last, obviously. So that's the best part. The pants are not the best part. They're a little tricky if I'm being honest. Alright, cape time. Gonna have to be very careful around the bling. Which also refers to the decorative bits at the bottom. Alright, I'm definitely in the cape painting zone now, people. I am locked in, as they say. For a while I was like, maybe this will be the last stream. It's like I'm gonna be highlighting the cloth bits. That's just like the peak there. I did spill over into the purple a bit, but we need to do the highlights on the purples later anyways, so we'll clean it up then. Alright, as tempting as it is to mix up the next shade of red highlight, we're going to move to the other models. Get them done. Or get the next stage of red done, that is. And we're just doing the same thing we were doing before, except we're going to have a smaller highlight area, basically. Leaning towards highlighting from the top down, of course. This paint just needs to be contained to its area a bit more. And yeah, this stage is very important because the current red terracotta that's on there it's not very saturated. It's a bit flat. Alright, that's looking nice. Just gonna do a little bit on the sleeve, then we'll do the hat. Alright, hat time. Hello again, Artie Char. I love me a red and purple combo. My original plan for like painting the characters and various command models for my 100 Kingdoms army was just like red-white. But then like when I was painting some of the first characters, we like knew right away there had to be some purple in there. But I'd like to keep, because I have painted a few of the kit badges that are like most just red and white as the accent colors and no purple, so I'm gonna like maintain a certain number of them. Like Lord Short King doesn't have any purple on him because we want like one command stand model for each unit to be one that's like just red and white for the melee units anyways. Spilled a bit into the recess there, let's mop that up. Alright, that hat's looking nice and highlighted. Purple is a good color for shading red. I ain't doing it on this right here, but what you say is true. If I really wanted to like showcase the proper finishing steps on some of these final streams, I could try and paint the faces, but the thing is I still find faces quite difficult. And I usually tend to just paint them off stream because they really gotta hunch over and like just get a maximum concentration mode. Painting faces is not my thing. I do my best. All right. Now it's time for the next step of red highlights. So we're gonna add a little bit more naphthol red light to the mix. Also, what time are we at? We're over 2 hours now. Yeah, now that I think of it, a better showcase for painting faces will be the unit of longbows, which will be the final thing for my 100 Kingdoms army. They have a lot more exposed faces. Thank you, 80, I appreciate that. Alright, here's gonna be some of the fun highlights, extra crispy time. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it here that this is gonna be the last stream for this batch of 100 Kingdoms. So we might have a bit of a longer break in between streams just while I finish this batch, because there's a decent amount of it to do. It's just all stuff that I've like either painted before on video for one of my older videos or painted on stream before. And, you know, like I was saying, I don't want to be too redundant with the streams. But you know, the pile of stuff that needs to be painted isn't going away, so there'll be more streams eventually. The next stream will either be working on some Harefoot jousting minis or the third team of Spartans for Flashpoint, Or we'll just keep on powering through this 100 Kingdoms and it'll be the batch of longbows, which is gonna be, they have a lot more of like a green and brown color scheme, because you know they're a light ranged unit. That's good to hear that you think the metal looks realistic. I gotta reset the camera. There are a couple bits on this cape where there's been like a piece of dust or something fibrous like painted into it. I think it's too late to try and get it out now, or trying to get it out now might like just scrape up some paint, which we don't want. So I think we must just leave it, unfortunately. Yes, if you were listening on the stream earlier, I did have a tiny tease about a Gunpla project. I have settled on the kit bash and paint that I want to do for the Odafest Gunpla contest this year, which is near the end of May. So I'm still kind of in the planning stages, being like, okay, will I feasibly be able to get this done in time? So consider there is a tentative hand-painted Gunpla project for next year. Gotta focus on like painting it and getting it ready for the contest first, and I'll record footage during and possibly stream some of it. And this is all assuming I like crunch the numbers and I'm like, okay, this is a thing I can do. But yeah, we'll focus on like getting it done in time for the contest, and then we'll have the footage and like maybe do something with it later. But the footage is just like the gravy we collect during the paint process. That the main goal is not to have a video here. The goal is to do the project and submit it to the contest. Alright, I think the red is done for this stage on that guy. My main priorities for next year are mostly all, well, I mean, there's my job, which is always a priority. And then I'm running a number of Conquest events that are pretty important. The absolute minimum Conquest painting I want to get done is getting this 100 Kingdoms list finished, and then there is there's at least, I want to finish the basing and priming for my Nord's army that's built currently. And then I need to apply some red leather base coat to a bunch of spires that have been built in Kit Bash recently. There's like a couple spires models I also want to get painted just to have like a better fully painted list, but that's all kind of up in the air right now because there's a spires rules update scheduled in January. So I'm not making any like painting goals for them until that update is out, and then I have a better idea of like what a solid army list will look like. But if I don't get any new spires painted in time for like the Conquest events next year, it'll be fine because I have a solid chunk of those painted already. It's just the impending rules updates really putting a hold on plans for that. Alright, let's add one more drop of that red. And we'll do one final highlighting stage of the red, that is. Oh, wait, did we do... Okay, let's use the stuff on the palette right now and just go over the trim of this again. Now, there's a bit of a bright area in the middle here. We just gotta Let's just wipe this towards the center to prevent bleeding into the other areas too much, and also just mix it a little more consistently. Yeah, 80. Sometimes you gotta just get that dough so you can eat. Unfortunately, life do be like that. Eat and buy more minis / models. Also, now that I'm thinking of my Spire's army, that's the one where it probably has the most illegal proxies and kit bashes. Not that like I care that much about that. And then I have a city-states army that's like mostly unbuilt, but I have lots of kit bashing and perhaps an illegal proxy planned for that as well. The thing is, when you have two armies, I can just be like, well, the 100 Kingdoms and the Nords, those will be the ones I bring to the events where things need to be fully legal. And then the other two armies could be the more casual, flexible proxy ones. Yeah, that red is nice and vibrant now. Yeah, that unemployed life is rough, 80, I feel for you. Don't give up, though. Just because you're unemployed doesn't mean you have any less value as a person. Alright. Time for the final red highlight. Then we'll wrap up the stream. Then I gotta start getting ready for work, which is mostly gonna be involved doing some food prep probably. So I don't just buy junk food for dinner. We'll see though. In December, the food diet rules tend to go out the window. I'm sure it's the same applies for many of you. Oh, this red and purple is gonna look so good when it's done. I can just tell. Once the backlog is empty, that's when you truly need to get a job so you can get more models, am I right? And this is where I gotta be a bit more careful and not over-highlight anything. Any spillover onto the gold can be fixed at the very end. I may not win games of Conquest that often, but I think my army is much more painted than my opponents often. Although for the past few months I've mostly been playing my Nords, which are basically just primed, so that statement I just made won't apply until this 100 Kingdoms batch is done. Alright. You're also, am bored. Delicious junk food. Maybe when I wrap up the stream in a little bit, 80, that'll snap you out of your boredom and you'll do something. I can only provide you for entertainment for a little bit longer. Time for the all-important hat. Got some nice ridges to get an edge highlight. Make sure I don't over highlight the brim too much. Can grab some of the darker paint still on the palette. Alright, red is done on this one. Alright, just a little bit of red trim to do on this one, then we'll be wrapping up the stream at about 2 hours, 20 minutes. Actually, maybe we'll grab Lord Short King. We'll do a little bit on his feathered head, just because there is some red to be used up, and we can just give it a quick little light dry brush. And doing this red highlight here first before finishing up the white probably bite me in the butt a little bit later. But that's a problem for next painting session. Yeah, this one does lack a bit of red detail compared to the others. Perhaps let's just add a bit of red to the gemstone on the sword right now. I think that'll give us a nice balancing to the purple and white. It's true, it's almost Christmas time, or we're a couple weeks out. It goes by pretty fast for me, working retail in the Christmas season. Okay, let's see. Let's try this. No, let's try this brush. No, I think my first instinct was right. Okay, I kind of feel like I need to add a bit of terracotta back into the palette, but I'm going to try and get away with not doing that and just grab from the edges that are a bit darker. And we are going for mostly a dry brush type maneuver here. If we overdo it, we can always apply some good old Army Painter strong tone after. But this is like at the top of the model, so having it be like nice and bright, I think could be good. Yeah, this is one of the ones that doesn't have any purple on it. The one designated command stand model, where it's red and white and not red, white, and purple. It's me just like overthinking the color scheme to my army hard. From painting choices that ended up being kind of spontaneous. Just Go for the brightest red now. Alright. Oh dear, is the stream crapping out? I'm getting the buffering wheel. Something's going wrong with the stream. Looks like we just dropped in bandwidth a lot there. Okay, looks like it's caught back up now. At least on the streaming software, which is 20 seconds ahead. But that's probably a note that I should wrap up the stream. I'm just gonna wait for to see if the quality catches up on YouTube's end. Alright, well, I'm glad that lagging didn't really come in until the end of the stream. And yeah, this is going to be the last 100 Kingdom stream until we get back, or not get back, just get to painting the longbows, because that's going to be fairly different from what I was doing. But in terms of like the armored melee troops, I feel like I've done plenty of streaming with those, both earlier this year and recently. And yeah, I'm gonna take some time to paint off stream for the next little while to just get through the rest of this batch of melee 100 Kingdoms troops. And then the next stream series will either do Flashpoint again, Harefoot Jousting, or we'll do those longbows. Hopefully that's before the end of the year. We'll see though. Christmas gets a little hectic, or the holiday season I should say. But thank you all very much who watched today and who watched any of the streams before. I hope you have a good rest of your Saturday, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.